call on Commissioner Paul Johnson for the approval and reading of the last 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if it's agreeable with the other members of the committee, we'll approve both the 19th and the 24th at the same time. Is that okay with everybody? Okay.
We got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next on our agenda is the investment report. Mr. Beatty?
Thank you, sir. Welcome back.
Thank you.
I've got 2 months in your packet. We only had one bid. Just to kind of give you the overview, the market has anticipated the Federal Reserve to drop interest rates, so it was kind of figured in, and they did in July. In late July, they dropped to 25 basis points, which was kind of figured in. So we have peaked, at least at this point, in interest rates on LGIP, which is the basis off of which our rates are figured. We're at 26 basis points above. So we're beginning to decline. And so from June until July, we dropped 5 basis points. So give you that. So we're seeing a decline. Will it speed up a little bit? But it gives us an idea of maybe 5 to 8 basis points a month. We're going to see a decline, would kind of be what you would anticipate. Now, the reason I give you that background is we got a bid in on some money that we bid out to the banks, which we always do separately, and you can see that it was 2.22%, which we accepted that bid because it gives us, it's below what we're getting today, but it's a little bit of insurance against dropping rates. But that's pretty borderline. In fact, we had a bid this week that came in less than that for a year. And because we're at 259 at this moment, what's the chances of it going significantly below 2 in the next 12 months to balance off what we'll get over a total year? We just said we're not going to take that rate because we feel like where we are will produce more income over the next 12 months than taking those CD rates at that lower rate. But we took this one because it was kind of on the borderline, and it does give us some insurance if rates drop. We anticipate, the market anticipates way above my pay grade, that we may see some more drops, maybe 25, maybe 50 more, depends on obviously what happens. So we're kind of hedging against those rates dropping, but anticipate a fairly steady decline for the next several months. Kind of a little longer, but give you an idea, and that tells you why we would accept a rate less than what we're getting today, and it's just insurance. Because there was some time we might get a 50 basis point drop this time, and it just gave us some, if rates drop, we know we're going to at least get this.
So you said it was locked in at 2.22.
2.22, yes, sir, for the next 12 months. And the bid we got, the market's actually dropped below that, and with the slow decline at this point, it just didn't seem reasonable to accept lower. Just felt like over 12 months, where we are is probably going to provide a greater yield on our funds.
Not anything to be alarmed about.
No, I mean, it's just what the market offers.
Right.
I mean, you know, and what for the state, what we've always said is, one, we got to protect the principal. That's our first rule. Second thing, it's got to be liquid. Got to be able to get the funds when we need it. And then third is return. So we're just trying to achieve what's market return. We're not trying to do anything really fancy, and this is what the market is giving us, because at this point, the market anticipates returns, interest declining, at least for the next little while.
Any questions? Okay, I'll take a motion to approve the investment report.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tess. Fund condition report, Ms. Noel.
Okay, I'm going to quickly go over some numbers because I don't really have something else I want to talk to you about. It's still the numbers. Okay, we'll start with June 30th. At the end of the fiscal year, we received $6,430,500 in development tax. Our cash balances at the end of June total $276,837,000, with $259,006,000 being operating funds, $17,831,000 being borrowed funds. Now I'll go to this one before we start June. I'm going to do this. that way, so this way. While you have this information in totals in your packet, every year I try to come up with a different solution to kind of go over. This is what happened last year after we closed. So you remember the journey we went through, and in June is when we estimate revenues, and we try to get revenues what we think it's going to be. We adjust those. But some of the things that we don't talk about is, and I told you, I said we will close better, because what we haven't talked about is what will we not spend. So in the top blocks for those major funds, it's what I provide you is what revenues exceeded our adjusted estimated revenues. So in the general fund, we received 1.8 million more than our revenue estimates that we adjusted. The largest number is the 45,000 numbers, the county official fees. Those came in way higher than what we had estimated. We get those 4 times a year, with the 4th payment coming in July. So we just don't know what that number's going to be till we get it. But that one, that was the one that was really outstanding to me. Staying on the general fund, just so that if we can talk about the general fund, it's going to follow all the way across. So the below is what did we not spend, and what were the categories that we did not spend it. So in the general fund, what was not spent was nearly $7.5 million. $4.5 million related to personal services and employee benefits. And you hear us talk, when we budget for all the positions being filled all year long. So if there's any turnover, that's where we gain. The contracted services, that came in at 1.9, about $500,000 of that contracted service was the home grant. That's about $500,000 that related to that. That would be a lot of contracted, it's all contracted services. Supplies and materials, 527, other charges, 312, capital outlay. And again, this is what we did not spend and was returned. So the end of the story on the general fund. And when you get to it, it's going to be the July fund condition report. It's at the end. It's the very last page of the July fund condition report. If you go to page 29 of 29. Because all the results of all the activity, and also that analysis of going through each of those revenues to determine if any of that money that we received above and beyond our expenses are, is it restricted, or is it committed, or is it, one of those categories. So that's a process that we go through. Is everybody with me on the last page? So the county general fund, all fund balances together, we're starting the year at $50.3 million. That's all of them. With the revenue at 104.5, appropriations at 111. We had restricted fund balances of 4.9 million, committed fund balances 1.7. That leaves us with an estimated unassigned at the end of this year at 36.4. That we ended strong, and we have a 32.6% fund balance is how we begin our year. Last year we began with 33. So it just, once everything closed. So you go in strong. We're going in strong.
Are the items in the committed fund balance things where we maybe closed out a purchase order and had to close it out for the end of the year, and then they're going to be reopening it?
No, it's actually, you're right on track. The majority of this number are open purchase orders that we've made the purchase. We may not have gotten the stuff, and we don't have the invoice yet. Okay. So it's not available to be spent because it's already been committed for a purchase.
And is that included in that committed fund balance?
That is the committed fund balance. Yeah, right on. the restricted fund balance. The largest number in that totals 4.8, but over 3 million is the restricted for capital projects. It's not been assigned to any kind of projects, but it's there and available for you to use.
Say that again.
The largest number in the restricted fund balance is the restricted for capital projects, and it's the money that comes in for the development tax above and beyond what y'all had approved during the last fiscal year. It's balances from previous years plus monies that came in above and beyond what you committed during the year. So it is available. It's available to you to use for a capital project that may come in, that will be coming in,
So like the courthouse.
like the courthouse.
Yeah, said we.
Right. You will see that total balance when we get to that one. We have one budget limit where, when they took bids for the improvement of this building, we needed $15,000 or $16,000 more. We were pulling out that. You'll see that number there of how much that total is.
So Lisa, going into this year with that kind of strength, how does that position us as we get ready to go to market?
I mean, I think it positions us strong. I mean, yes, I think I mean, we're actually what we're being able to show, and of course, they'll just kind of look at this. They're really going to be focusing on last year, that they have audited balances. Even though I tell them how strong that we've ended, they won't really take it to heart until they see it with an audited opinion on it.
But with our audited balances of
From
last year,
I think, that's strong.
It looked good because we were wanting that AAA.
Right.
And they said they wanted to wait and see it was audited.
Right,
So
right, that, and
should
they
be
wanted to
strong.
see our assessments. Now, while it might not always be favorable for some people to have a tax increase, that also makes us strong going in. And it shows the rating agencies that this governing body is willing to tax if they have to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a positive for them,
For the bond market.
for the bond market, that you're willing to do that.
Well,
And there's nothing stronger than showing that
Sure.
you did it.
Well, we took care of our employees and took care of all of our obligations, so it was,
So we do go in strong, and as I was speaking to Commissioner Gooch, some of the things that you might think about, and I'm just throwing this out there because we are strong. And as capital projects come up to you over the next probably couple months, there's some that you just might choose, let's go ahead and pay for it. And we'll just take it out of our unassigned fund balance and pay for it. It's really no different than what the schools have done in the past. When their fund balances really come in better, they just take part of it and they move it capital projects and do some pay-as-you-go instead of borrowing for it. So as we go through the year, I just kind of want you to think about it, that particular point, and then the other point of, okay, we might want to just hold back. I don't know what the economy's going to do. But those are some nice cards to have in your pocket as we go through this year.
Which would outweigh the best, paying for it and saving the interest, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you have $1 million project or $500,000, you've got $3 million sitting over there, and capital, you might do, what we have done in the past, we've kind of took half out of our capital projects and half out of unassigned. We've kind of combined those two and funded projects. So,
And we'll just take those as they come.
as they come, and I'm sure, Mayor will be, I'm
I'm
sure
sure
bringing
they're
some.
coming.
I'm sure they're coming.
They're coming.
But I just wanted to let you know that we're in a strong position going into the next few years.
So this is very good
It's
news.
good news.
yes.
Any questions on that? Unless you do have a hard copy of,
It's all on,
I thought you,
everybody got this
You
one.
got- okay.
Everybody got this one on how we ended. I just thought, and while these are listed in your report, sometimes it's just by departments and you really don't see what makes up, what did we not spend? What categories did we not spend? in. So that's helpful. So anyway, that, one other thing, just because we ended with a 32.6% unassigned fund balance, and the schools ended at 9. Great. And debt service ended at 86%.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, if there's no questions, then we'll take a motion to approve this report.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, motion passes. Risk management financial report is Steve.
Good evening.
Yeah.
We have 2 months we're looking at. I think I've got my exhibits lined up with yours. I'm not going to go through every single, unless you would like for me to, every single number, but the main thing that I want you to look at, because we ending the fiscal year for 2018-2019, the very first exhibit, if you look down at the bottom, and if you see the trend, revenue versus expenditures for the last 2 years, you can see that it's still trending about the same. No major changes. If you go over to the next page where you see your spreadsheet, the numbers that I would like to concentrate on, if you look at the very top where the 2018 calendar year revenue versus expenditures, you can see at 75 million, 69 million, a difference of 58. As we look down to 2019 calendar year, you'll see 11 million. Now, keep that number in mind when we get ready to go to July, because Board of Education doesn't have collect premiums for the month of July and August. So this number will change drastically. And as Lisa was talking about ending fund balance, you'll see where, you've got to have some money to keep going. So anyway, so you're looking at $11 million there. And when you look at the 2017-18 fiscal year comparison and 2018-19 fiscal year comparison, you can see they're very similar to each other. And you look at the balance, revenue less expenditures at 5.7 and 5.6. So that, again, goes back to the trend you're seeing at the very first page, that things were running pretty close to the same. When you move over to the next exhibit, when you're talking about work injury fund here at 266, claims paid, if you'll flip over to, you can look at the graphs, and then after that, if you look at the page where you're looking at year-to-date expenditures, workers' comp, OJI combined fiscal year ended at 1.02, so pretty close to the same. A lot of that, it fluctuates based on if you have a workers' comp injury, an older injury, or OJI, depending on, you can have somebody that has a claim, he can carry on for 2 or 3 months, and then it'll be resolved, or it could be ongoing for a long time. Something that also changes that is like a heart transplant, lung transplant, something like that, if that was required. But right now, if you look at the two, it's at 1.02, which is pretty close to the same as last year. And then if you look at the next exhibit where you have the legal expenses, and for the month of June, it's pretty close to the same thing as it was last year. So that's the June. You want me to move on to July and go ahead and do them all together?
You may, if there's any questions at this point.
Any questions on that? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we'll move on to July, and July gets some crazy numbers in here, and I'll explain it to you as we get a little bit further along. Again, you're looking at, on the health insurance, again, the trend is still close to the same, and then you get to, going back to the spreadsheet, your next exhibit, after looking at the graph at the bottom. You see the month of July on the calendar year 2019, the month of July. Again, that's because of the premiums not being collected, and they will start back in September. So July and August, you should be able to see a change. And if you look at that total out to the far right, you see it's gone down from 11 million to almost 6. And that's because of the premiums, which will catch back up again like it did last year. And then, of course, down at the bottom at the 2018-19 and 2019-2020 fiscal year comparison, you just have 1 year, and that's just gives you an idea for that month, but it's not fair to compare the whole year based on that information, or you'd be scared to death, so. I would be. So we move on to the next one, the 266 fund. You look at your year-over-year paid claims and your workers' comp. If you flip over to the next page where you have your numbers, here's what your graph is a little bit crazy looking. In anticipation with CCMSI stopping as of June 30th and Assured Partners coming on at July 1. So there wasn't any problem with workers' comp checks, OJI checks not being paid. The checks for June were paid through CCMSI. And in the transition, so I think it's, I don't want to be held to years, but there's a lot of years that CCMSI dumped a bunch of data, and I think one email that I got showed like 80,000 attachments. Yes, that of all the information that they got. So it was a huge data dump to go from CCMSI to Assured Partners, or their third-party administrator is going to be Collins and Company. That's who we're dealing with a lot. So, and Collins Company is the one that writes the checks. So for the month of July, those checks were not written, and that's why you see a big zero there. In working with CCMSI and anticipating the problem dumping all of that data, we wanted to make sure that those individuals that were still receiving checks would receive them. So CCMSI wrote the checks out, and then as those people, the ones that returned to work didn't get them, but the ones that did not return to work received their checks. And that way, as a commissioner, you wouldn't get that phone call, I'm not getting my check, and so that's how it was worked out. There was no expenditures for that month under the workers' comp as far as anything being paid. If you move on to the next exhibit where you see legal fees, for July you see $856.49. Same situation with CCMSI. I know a lot of people got their bills in, and it wasn't a whole lot, but I mean, they got it in. But then when it came to the month of July, the only person that got paid was Hudson Reed and McQuarrie. So that was it. And I met with them yesterday, and so, and actually Nick and I met with them yesterday. So that's all started back up, everything, I hadn't got calls, complaints, or anything like that. Everybody was aware of it. We're just trying to get that information dumped over, sorted through, and we're really, really close to getting it done. So, and that was in our meeting yesterday. Lawsuits and things are still moving on. OJI checks start moving on, and it's just getting through the process. But that's why you'll see that crazy number there of 856. August number should be the same because you're going to be combining 2 months into one for that. So just to give you a heads up on that. Any questions?
If there's no questions, we'll take a motion to approve his report.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could just give some information to the
Yes, sir.
committee real quick.
That's fine.
The health fair date has been set for the county is October the 18th, and it will be at the Lane Agri Center in the back part, the community center. It'll be in the back there. And annual enrollment starts on that same Friday. and it'll run for 2 weeks till the following 2 weeks will be Friday, be November the 1st. We are going to have people on site, and so if you come to the health fair, we will be able to help you with your annual enrollment. We're going to have laptops, all-in-ones. OIT department has been awesome helping us, trying to get that set up so we could be mobile and go more to the departments and department heads and trying to help people understand their insurance. Our goal has been that for that 2 weeks, you're not trying to make a decision on what you want to do with your health plan because you've already approved the rates and everything. It's set. So now's the time to be making a decision what you want to do. That 2 weeks, you just go in and make your changes, and if you have any problems, we'll be there for that, and of course, at the regular time, of our office hours to set it up. The health fair is 3 to 7 on that 18th, and then the annual enrollment closes November 1. A couple of things just to make you aware of. We have a QR code that's under development right now, and we're really close to getting ready to put it out there, and it's just a quick reference where you can go in and you can have it at your office, you can have it on the wall, you can have it at home, something like that. You put your phone up there, you just read it, and if you have any trouble with what are the hours at Premise Health, and the QR code, we did it by the tracking of our website. So when you go in there, instead of having to fumble through or go to your computer or something like that, you just take your phone and there it is, and it'll just link you right to it, and it's a mini version of the website, so you understand it. It's not going to be another website. And then the website itself is under construction. I mean, it's still usable,
Yeah.
but we're still making some changes in it, making it more user-friendly and updated and things like that. And trying to address the questions that, we have calls to make it more user-friendly based on the questions that people are being asked and asking us. So just, trying to make it more for the employees and the users of it better.
And how long does open enrollment?
It's 2 weeks.
2
It'll go from October the 18th to November the 1st. And it'll start at 12 o'clock at noon, and it'll cut off at 12 o'clock at noon. And so what we've done is you have 2 weekends at the front end to go in, do whatever you need to do, and then that final 4 or 5 days, you'll be able to call us. If you have any questions either weekend, you'll be able to call us, and we'll be able to walk you through whatever problems that you have. Okay?
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is the juvenile court general fund budget amendment, and I think Lisa's taking care of this.
Yes, this is carryover from last year. It's the second half of the Custody Prevention Services grant from Department of Children's Services, and the grant period was from December 2018 to June 30th, 2020. So this is a revenue and appropriation of $46,448.
Just a basic housekeeping measure.
It's the next
Yeah.
half of the grant.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is this where it called on? Yes. Okay. Are there any questions for Lisa at this time? If not, we'll call the roll.
We'll start with Mr. Pearson.
Yes.
Commissioner Allen.
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd.
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Nolan. General fund budget amendment for the Register of Deeds, and I think Ms. Nolan also has this.
Yes, and this is $1,500 that she's taking from her restricted monies for EDP, and it is for a maintenance agreement on a piece of equipment. It's a 2-year maintenance agreement. This is one of those restricted monies that
Motion to approve.
Is there
can only be spent for this particular purpose.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions? If not, we'll call the roll, please.
Commissioner Pearson.
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens.
Yes.
Commissioner Allen.
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd.
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next on our agenda is the general fund budget amendment for the Sheriff's Department, the JAG grant. Sheriff, would you like to come up, or any representative?
Just in case y'all want to know how we're spending the money.
Just come on up, just in case we have some questions.
This is the money, this, again, is very similar to the other one. It's carryover grant. It's when they finally decided that y'all could spend the money. And it's a revenue and the appropriation of $30,648. This is one that it's the JAG grant. You hear us talk about the JAG grant. It is with the city of Murfreesboro. They take the lead
And we
with it.
split the money.
And we split, yeah,
So grant money in,
and appropriate.
move to approve.
For a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion or questions for
Are
the,
the numbers supposed to match?
30.
Okay, no. Don't look at that PCP paper yet. That's a different one.
I see 3648.
Oh, this piece of paper you hand out's not the
Right,
same.
not the same one.
okay, no other questions, we'll call the roll, please.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes,
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
motion passes.
So,
And then we have a memorandum of understanding.
yes, that's the next page that we put out that we just got this afternoon. The one that you just approved was for the 2018 JAG. This is a request to submit and approve the memorandum of agreement with the city of Murfreesboro for the 2019 JAG grant.
And so our part is,
$31,572.
do we have plans for this grant money?
The 18, it's on this, I got what we're gonna spend the future
Right.
money. This was talked about a year ago.
Right.
It's a rescue phone,
think he's talking
crisis
about 19.
response.
I was talking
I don't think we
You're talking
have
about
that.
19?
Yes.
I don't know if we've got anything for
So that
19
would be
yet.
what we're gonna spend on right now.
That's the what, so you've got on your iPad, it's what the 2018 grant is for.
Okay.
The 2019 is applying for.
That's gonna be for your, we're gonna buy 45 stop sticks, which is basically stingers to deflate tires when they're running from us. 45 LED flashlights for vehicles and 6 car rechargeable batteries for the radio. And that will take all that up. But
Any questions on the, is this something we need to go ahead and approve?
We need to
tonight?
approve the MOU, it's got to go in with the application.
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Is there no other discussions? Can we do we need a voice vote on this? Let's go ahead and call the roll, please.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes,
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
motion passes.
thanks, Lisa.
That was to approve the application and the MOU.
Okay.
I'm sure that's what
I think it was, is what I heard.
okay.
All right, general fund budget transfer for pause. Mr. Gregory?
Good evening. We're asking to transfer money within our budget from our full-time vet position over to our contract position. We're still trying to get that filled. You've seen that several times over the last couple of years.
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
Second.
No other questions? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens? Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes,
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
motion passes.
Yes.
That was quick.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, contract with the Department of Health, Ms. Garrett.
Okay, good evening. I am bringing the contract for the state and the Department of Health. We start on this in January to start the process. So a few things have changed, and from even when we put in the budget here. So they've added a few positions that we will be filling to help us at the health department. And as soon as we get this one signed from January, we'll go back and amend and do the raises and the other things that have come along since we did this first draft in January. So, but I have to get this one signed before I can start the amendment on the second one.
So is this pretty much standard other than the positions?
Yes, yeah, and it's all reimbursable. The state pays for all of it.
Any questions for Ms. Garrett?
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
Second.
And this is for the your contract.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes, and now we have an amendment.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's correct. So somewhere in all of the changes that we did right towards the end of the budget,
Can we do this one?
yeah, you can jump.
I won't do this
I don't
one.
want to throw anybody in the bus. I don't know where it went.
So I will say this was one of the hardest budget years that we've done.
And you did great.
But this was one that she had requested some changes in what the position was doing. And frankly, I lost them. So we budgeted what positions what they were prior to. So she had made some changes. I lost them. So to get what she she needs $4,000 more in the other salary and wages. And we're taking that out of unassigned fund balance, $4,745.
It's correcting some little blips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Make sure the minutes show that.
It was, that's why I said, I'll tell you later.
That's all you did? That's pretty amazing.
Okay, any questions? If not, we'll call the roll.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And going back into her other one,
Oh, yeah.
just back to the other one, we'll be bringing amendments back because she did have positions that the state is approving in the contract, but we don't have in our budget yet. So that'll be
But the
coming.
funds are there in the 2.8 or whatever.
Yeah.
There'll be enough funds to get her through before we come up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else?
No.
Thank you
that's
so
it.
much.
Thank you, guys.
See you
Appreciate
later.
your support. Thank you, Lisa.
General fund budget transfer from Circuit Court, and Ms. Harrell.
Hello, good evening. I'm just asking to move $3,000 from data processing equipment account to the office equipment account for copiers.
And this is for 2 copiers?
And it's actually for 3.
3, okay.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion carries. Anything else, Ms. Harrell?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Have a good evening.
That's it, thank you.
Solid Waste Fund budget amendment.
Thank you, Courtney.
Hi, how are y'all?
All right. Good, Mike.
We're asking to move $200,000 out of the solid waste fund balance into the convenience center line item for site development. And that will be the money to start the site work at the Leanna Convenience Center.
We saw this last night, or the other, Tuesday night. And I questioned how we were funding this improvement and got satisfactory answers from fund balance. So I don't want to rush this, but I will make a motion to approve this transfer.
Okay, is there a second?
Second. But I have a question.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir.
Will any of this be used for security purposes?
No, not out of site development. That's what we have the big trucks for. We had the money in the last year's budget, but didn't get through that process. So it went into fund balance. Now we're asking to bring it back out. And you'll see more of these as we go through the project. This is just to get the groundwork done and get the building torn down, get the groundwork done, and then we'll have to put out bids for the electrical and the plumbing and some others. And once we know what those prices actually are, that's when we'll ask for budget amendments to fund those.
Can you piggyback? This is for crushed stone, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can you piggyback off of the highway departments?
Yes, sir. We always
From
do.
Blue Water? Okay. We just
Yeah, Miss Mary sent us that, so
We
the
just
price
addressed-
went up a little
we
bit.
just addressed that Monday.
Right.
Okay. I believe in piggybacking when you can.
And that, on that first sheet that I sent you, is supplies and materials that he did not spend was $367,000. A big part of that was what he didn't spend last year for this kind of stuff.
I thought it was coming. That's why we talked about that tonight.
Right. What other questions we have?
Mr. Chairman, let me just say, I said this the other night in Public Works, but I want to compliment Mac for, I gave him a challenge, and we were about to lose a $100,000 grant, and we were able to pull it off, and Mac was able to get our equipment out there, our crushers, and got TDEC to come in and do the inspection, so we were able to salvage that $100,000 grant. But it didn't say in the grant that it had to be permanently wired. All it had to do was be functional at the time of the inspection.
Had to be operational.
Operational, so we got it operational, and we're getting the money and moving forward, so thank you.
Well, the challenge was to get it done and ask him if he minded me working in the gray area. So what we did was use what they did not say against it.
Very interesting.
It's $100,000.
Okay. Well, no, I'll ask any more questions on that.
We won't go there.
That's all the information we need.
That's all we need. Go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
It passed inspection, right?
Yeah, that's all.
That's the end of the
That's main
story.
thing. All right, cool. So historical property tax abatement, is Mr. Tucker here by?
I didn't see it.
He's lost a lot of weight.
Okay.
No, he's not.
You got that information, Mr. Mayor?
I can do that. This is basically just setting up the board procedures. The commission had already approved the board members. They've already had their first meeting, and this will be beginning on September 1st. The board will receive the applications for the tax abatement for renovation, and you can see on your tablet all the criteria that will be requested. Just like age, it has to be in the historic district, project of the plan, will all have to be evaluated, and they'll be able to go in and look at that before they allow that abatement to be done. And I believe we're the first county to fall under the new law allowing these abatements in the state of Tennessee. These criteria, was there a template somewhere, or did the board create these? It was in the, when they... It was in the statute. In the statute. Okay.
This came through steering the other night, and Mr. Tucker presented this. I think that the committee had met or recommended these, this is a proposal, and we had made some changes to it at steering to address sunshine law violations. And
Okay.
so what was actually going forward was going to be modified to reflect what steering had proposed. And what's on the iPad here is not, this is the same thing that came to the steering committee as the original draft, so this doesn't have the amended language in it.
But the steering was satisfied with the amendment?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So when we make a motion, we'll approve as amended, is from the steering?
Correct.
Okay, we got a motion, is there a second?
We'll make sure, Mr. Chairman, that I apologize for
Go ahead.
not being here of what came through with steering. However, we had another issue. It's been Laura trying to run the office, and then Ginger, she went down and had to go to the hospital the other day as well this week. So we've been very limited on, everybody's trying to figure out what goes on what, so.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't know that this was coming to Budget Committee, or I would have helped get it
Sure.
done
Shouldn't
first.
this just go through steering to the commission?
It probably
I'm not
should
sure
have.
why,
Do we-
there's really not any financial aspect
I
to
didn't
this.
think,
Is there?
I didn't think that it was, but it wasn't on there this morning, and I know Becky came in and was
Yeah.
working with Laura, and there were several things that got added to it today that I was going, I don't think that needs to, but okay.
Well,
Maybe this is just for information.
let's just say since steering heard it and vote on the amendment that had come from steering, and this is information
But it'll
for
be
us.
next Thursday night at the full commission, it'll be what was done at steering.
Okay.
Just take no action.
Thank you, Commissioner Stevens. Any other questions or comments on the item number 13? If not, we'll go on to the resolution to participate in the state electronic monitoring indigent fund, and I think the mayor, Lisa, will.
I can take it. And what this is, if you remember during the budget process, you know, the county gave up doing electronic monitoring
Ankle bracelets.
ankle bracelets. And
the state does have an indigency fund that we are, and that's what this is that we're participating, and we have in the budget 35,000 that we are putting, that we've got in the budget to say that's what our contribution is going to be. The state will match dollar for dollar. So if there is somebody that
gets an ankle bracelet on and they can't pay, there is a process. It's not our process. I mean, it's a process for, like say, the company who does put it on, an ability for them to go back and declare them indigent, and then they go to this fund to the state and ask for reimbursement.
The law that was passed back in the spring put a lot more money on it because into this fund, but it said you have to, all counties who want to participate have to opt in, and that's what this MOU is doing, is allowing us to opt in to get reimbursement from that fund that the General Assembly put the dollars into.
And
This resolution and MOU were provided by the state, so this is their language with just our twist on how we present everything.
And so we need a motion to opt in with this contract.
To sign it. MOU.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Yes, so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, if there's no more questions.
I have one question.
Go ahead.
If for some reason we go through the entire fund, can we add more to it and they'll match, or is this just a fixed number for this year and you're on your own after that?
I would,
I think you can add more to it. We're just kind of an unknown as to what it would be, so.
And then if all the money's not spent, would it just roll forward to the next year?
actually, what ends up happening is that we'll put the whole $35,000 in an LGIP account that the state can pull out of.
Okay.
They'll
So we
send-
never
they'll
actually
send
lose
us-
control of the funds?
Yeah, they'll send us a bill to let us
Okay.
know how much is going to be coming out every month, and then they'll just draft that money straight out. Well, that's the option we're suggesting, but there's two options. One, they can just pull it up straight out of your bank account. We really didn't want the state to have access to our bank account, so.
Good decision. All right. Okay, so we'll go ahead and, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 15, funding for Rockville Fire EMS Station. Mr. Mayor, do you have?
Okay, so I didn't know if you,
That was
I think
carried
you,
forward from property management. Yes.
right, from property management. I think they sent a quote. We didn't, I don't feel like there needs to be an amendment or anything because there's money in your budget for engineering costs, but I just
Sure,
thought, I thought this was an
strictly for
opportunity.
engineering.
Correct.
I didn't know if you wanted to
I think there was,
talk to them about what was going on.
I don't recall the amount that,
It was like 6,000.
6,000 something dollars
The
for
Jim
Holliston.
Thompson
For very minimal,
Holliston.
very
The
minimal.
Jim Thompson.
Jim Thompson property,
Right.
right down from his warehouse there in Rockville.
Were we going to look at the north or
The-
south side of the?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Make sure that
Soil.
it's not going to be in a sinkhole and all this.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think what we want to look at in the presentation made property management, that we want to take the high side, the one that's on the left-hand side of the milk barn, and not to the right-hand side, because it would require a lot of fill dirt that's in the flood zone. And Jim said, he met us out there when we all met, and he said, it's fine with me, just take whatever you all need. So I think in order to, Huddleston Engineering, Michael went ahead and got Huddleston to go out there and plot it out. So I think that was the first step, and that's what this is.
So, I mean, that's what we didn't think we needed any kind of
No.
funding mechanism or action on this at this point, but since it was forwarded, give you an opportunity to talk about it.
Okay.
We need a motion to approve that.
There's no motion.
Is there?
It's a FYI.
We have our attorney, Nick is working with Jim's attorney, for him to gift whatever acreage we need. And that's why we needed to get the engineer out there to find out what we need and where we can put the step system and how we can actually fit the building on those 2 acres or acre and a half, whatever we decide we need.
Okay. Any more comments or questions on that? If not, we'll move to item number 16, general fund budget amendment for the historical courthouse renovation.
So this is one that we talked about earlier. The amount that we have set aside and restricted for capital projects, we closed with $3,232,000 in that account. So we're requesting $16,000 to move out to add into the historic courthouse renovation based on the bids that came in.
Mr. Chairman, we had 4 bidders, and the low bid came in at $665,858. And it was a local Rutherford County company from Laverne. They're the ones that had actually done some work on the courthouse previously in the last renovation, so they're familiar with the property. Right now, once this goes through, they're planning on, it'll go back to purchasing, because purchasing took another advisement. They'll go back to purchasing. You all approve it next week, right before the county commission meeting. County commission will approve it.
Funding's in place.
Funding's in place. They'll start dropping their supplies and construction materials on the inner loop on the 21st of this month. And so work will begin. They're looking at 180 days, I think, completion.
180 days. 180 days.
180 day completion.
Mid-February when the project should be done.
This is basically be taking care of business that we'll be taking care of on the 13th, first.
But right now, we need to move 16,000.
That's correct.
Okay, is there a motion to move this 16,000?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll do a second, then I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, please.
So the full budget that we've allotted for this, I know that the contractor, they're gonna live with the inside of their bid. Who manages, like, as bills come or as things are spent, to make sure that everything's as it should be, as it was expected to be? Are you gonna see each bill? Is there a project manager? What's the checks and balances?
Bart Klein with Klein Sweeney, he had a project manager for our architect firm, so he'll be writing herd on that in conjunction with Ben. If you remember in the budget, we gave Ben a little bit more salary, so he'll kind of be the Jerry of the judicial building, so he's going to be in that position because Ron is now he feels comfortable that he can step up and kind of work with the architect. He knows the building better than anybody. Ben does. So he'll be kind of here a lot. And then all those bills will come in, forward them to Lisa.
But the only reason I ask is because, of course, I haven't seen the bid. I haven't seen any of this. I do have a constituent who works in the lighting industry who, I guess, when the contractors were out soliciting for their subcontractors, I got an email and he said, so why is the lighting package on the courthouse going to cost $200,000 and you're raising my taxes? And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So put some feelers out a little bit. He didn't really know what he was, he didn't have a firm number. He wasn't the guy in charge of bids. He was ballparking, that sort of thing. So anyway, I just want to make sure that whatever we've decided to spend on lighting, all of that is, in check with what it should be.
Well, and we asked that after you inquired to the office, and we called Bart and asked him that, and it was based on the specifications from the architect. And if we can come in cheaper, then we definitely want to do that. But for bid purposes, they wanted to make sure that everybody was bidding equally, on the same thing. And one was as high as you see, this one came in at 663, and one was close to 900,000. But they had the same specs to bid on the lighting package.
I just want to make sure somebody's watching the dollars.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mr. Sandlin said it was a 180-day project.
Yes, sir.
Is there going to be any kind of penalty imposed when it goes over 180 days?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
What percent?
I need to look back at it. We talked about that in our board meeting, and was it 500? Something like that.
500 a day.
Per day.
Per day.
They've added in rain days and all that sort of stuff, so it's padded a little bit on their side because of the fall coming in and doing this project. So they're going to try to attack the outside projects first while they're in this fall weather until we get into the wetter weather.
And I also asked them to do the east side first for, as we get into the holidays, trick or treat is on this side, Santa Claus comes to this side, so, and it may be warmer on the west side when they're working in the wintertime, so they're going to be...
This is where your bricks and drainage easement, whatever that issue is.
Yeah.
That's on both sides.
It's on both sides. We got to put a new sewer line in.
Sewer line over
on this side, on the west side, because it's sagging. It's a clay pipe, and it's not functioning.
The city's putting a manhole in there, and we're connecting to it, making all that better.
Excellent.
Yeah, but before Halloween, doesn't the wicked witch of the west come from the west? Okay,
Moving on.
moving right along. So where are we?
Okay.
We got a motion for, please call the roll.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 17, Regional Transportation Authority contract.
This is an annual contract. The money is the $49,220 is already in the budget. It's just the contract and agreement between Regional Transport
Three
Authority and...
three different bus routes. I'm on that board. We have three different bus routes. One stops in Smyrna. We have one on 96, and we have one that runs through Murfreesboro, stops at the Kroger. The one in Smyrna stops at Kroger and Smyrna and picks up. But you can see on your tablet the amount of ridership that's reflected.
Is this a free service for the riders?
Yes, sir.
Because of our questions of this the other night, I would make a motion to approve this contribution.
Second.
Thank you. Any more comments or questions? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes. Item number 18, the home brand inspection contract.
Yes, sir. This is with GNRC, and what this does, it allows us to participate with GNRC, who uses HUD and THDA approved for the rehab coordinator. Basically, he's the rehab coordinator is the inspector who will go out when they're looking for doing termite inspections, winter installation, lead-based paint services, and you'll see on page 3 the payment in terms of the conditions. And I had to apologize to you that it was not, this MOU was not reflected the other night when you asked about it. But this is the MOU and the terms. It pays for housing inspection services, initial, progress, and final, not to exceed $2,500 per house. Lead-based paint services, $1,000 per house for the testing and risk assessment, and clearance examination and termite inspection at $250. Has all the terms and conditions with, and I think there's a 45-day period that GNRC has to, or they have to pick that inspector, and they are their insurance. We're not liable for any workers' comp or anything if they're injured while they're out inspecting the homes in Rutherford County. There was a question the other night about that. I think we've been doing this for a number of years, haven't we, Lisa?
We have, and we've done it a couple of ways. To where we paid the inspector ourselves, and that
Then it
was
became
that
our
was a
liability,
difficulty.
yeah.
And so I think that we handled it this way many, many years ago, so we're going back to the way that we used to do it.
Yeah, Tanya said that they used to do it over codes, and it's much better letting GNRC worry about it.
Right.
We just send the money.
Okay. Any questions? If not, we'll take a motion.
Motion to approve.
Your second.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Let's go to item number 20 first, if you don't mind, before 19. General Fund Budget Amendment for Fire and Rescue.
You've got 2 amendments here, and they are the firefighter grants that were approved last year. The monies were not spent. This is a carryover into next year. There's the first one, the end date is November 30th of 2019. The second one has an end date of August 19. So this is another one of those things that as soon as commission approves it, they'll be issuing the POs. They've already got the bids and everything put in place. And the second one was for the fire alarms. The first one was for equipment, personal protective equipment for the volunteers. So the first one does have a 10% match, so we're requesting $11,186 out of the unassigned fund balance. The second one has a 5% match of $4,077.
These matching funds from us, right? Okay. Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
This is some more of your money that was in Lisa's report of leftover money that didn't get spent
That
last year.
didn't get spent.
It was in the budget last year, the same exact amount.
Any other questions or discussions? If not, we'll call the roll.
Commissioner Pearson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes. I think the mayor wants to talk about lease or purchase copy machines.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. One of the last things that Vicki did is she was able to find for me what you see before you on your tablet was back on the 13th day of September 2001, the county commission, in their infinite wisdom at that time, chose to quit leasing copy machines and said they wanted to purchase all copy machines going forward. Well, what I've discovered since last September when I started signing off on purchase orders coming through, that we're doing both. Now, I don't know at what point in time that this appeared and it was not being adhered to, but we're purchasing and leasing in different departments. And trying to do some research and talking to Canon and MTR and some of the other vendors that we have been using in the past, most of them are saying because the machinery since 2001 has changed so much dramatically, it's you can get a much better, faster copy machine and lease it for a whole lot cheaper than what you can purchase. But that's the will of the commission. I just need some direction if you want me to review both purchase and lease as they come in, get prices on both, or do you want to still continue to go to purchase? It's up to the commission.
So you're saying right now they're coming in as both purchase and leasing?
Yes, sir.
And so the commission had voted not to do any more leasing.
Yeah, I don't know.
We kind of lost the way.
Yeah,
So
lost the way somewhere.
We need to clear this up.
Yeah, I'd like to
Okay.
some direction of, tell somebody that you need to turn that lease in, you
Or
can't
maybe
read
just
lease.
have departments present you with.
One or both.
Well, and we kind of, Mark found what was presented, an analysis that was done back in 2001, copy or lease versus purchase, and maybe this is what you require that the departments provide you to determine which is the best option
Sure.
for that department. For like Melissa, I think it was for her and the deal she got, it was best to purchase. So I think I
Yeah,
understand
it
what
just
he's saying,
depends on
is
how
just
many.
give him the option.
If it's a smaller department, it doesn't need that many. And I don't know how many you use, but I know it's
Of copies?
a lot.
Yeah, there's
Even though you're a small department, you still use more than some other departments. It's all about numbered clicks, and then are you responsible in the lease? Sometimes the lease will pick up all the maintenance and the toner and the whatever. Otherwise, if you purchase, then you got to pay for the toner. The toner's killing you. As you know, it's so expensive anymore.
And as
But
technology change, you might want to upgrade, but if you bought it, then you kind of.
I bought my last two for a penny, but they're old.
They're old. She got them from another department. And they have told me that the technology is getting ready to change again. We used to have inkjets, and they got rid of the inkjet and went to the dry toners. And now it's coming back because they made such improvements in the inkjets. They used to leak and get hard, and the little rubber nipples, if you will, would get hard, and the ink would dry out in it. But they've made a lot of improvements, so the ink is coming out much cheaper than dry powder. So
Commissioner Stevens.
I was going to ask if we just rescind this resolution, would that solve our problem that was
yeah,
leaving
but
wide
I would
open?
like, yeah, it would. it would, and then I could just take this information and put the burden back on whoever's trying to sell or lease us the copy machine. I send out a letter to all the departments and make them do the work, give us options on both.
So really all you need is just to rescind this.
That's correct.
And then you'll have the
Yes, sir.
flexibility.
So I'll make a motion that we do that.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions or discussion?
I have just one thing I want to add to that. I think it probably would be worthwhile for both of you and for department heads if finance came up with a template, and basically all they had to do was fill in the blanks. That way that they know exactly what information you're requesting from them, that they've taken into consideration how long is the lease, and what is included, what's not included. So it's just kind of a checkbox sort of thing for them, so that when you look at it, you're not having to go back and ask a bunch of questions that they forgot to ask or didn't know to ask.
Yeah, because there's a lot of, in doing this, the last copier I did, it was huge on the maintenance, when you buy one,
Right.
the maintenance agreement, because some of them had escalators.
Right.
And some of them would say,
Right.
little cheap, here it is, and it's not going to change.
Right.
So, I mean, that makes a difference in whether or not it was.
I just went through the exact same thing, so I know intimately the details of negotiating a copier lease. So,
Do you have a template we can use?
I have no idea. There's just a lot goes into it.
If there's no other discussion, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Any other business? Seeing none, this meeting stands adjourned.